Welcome back. Another episode, New York Real Estate Investing Show. Michael Pinter here with Greg Helbeck. And we've got a great series we're going to start right now. It's the marketing. I wouldn't call it a mini series because we're going to go really deep on the marketing channels here. But the next sequence of episodes, we're going to take every marketing channel that we do that works, and we're going to talk about how it applies in New York, what to look out for, how to be successful with it.
Do the ones that don't work also. Talk about those.
Yes. Like door knocking. Now that works if you do it enough, but I don't do door knocking.
I'm actually doing that now. It's crazy.
You're doing it yourself, or you have someone doing it for you?
I have this kid. He said, "I'll do anything for you." I said, "Okay, I'm going to print out 8,000 flyers."
Yeah.
Me looking like an idiot. I go, "You just stick it on people's doorknobs with a rubber band. I'll give you the rubber bands. I'll give you the pages." He goes, "I'm in."
Dude, look at you.
That's how I just got that deal in Roosevelt from his stupid thing.
Oh, that was from that bullshit?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, today we're going to talk about direct mail, and that's Michael and I's it's my favorite marketing channel. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is that your favorite one?
It's the one that's as you talk to people who are successful in this business, more and more of those will tell you that it's what always has worked and is continuing to work. So yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. And I think direct mail, it scares a lot of people out, whether they're new or experienced, because I've found that it is a little bit more expensive than obviously the telemarketing bullshit, which we'll talk about.
It's a lot more expensive.
A lot more expensive. But it's a very consistent, predictable channel. And the biggest thing I like about direct mail, and we'll go into detail, is the US Postal Service will, in my opinion, never be out of business in the next 15 years, right?
No, never. By the way, never. Our great-great-grandchildren will still have
the Postal Service. So I'll let you kick off. If someone's listening, they don't even know what direct mail is, I'll let you start to kick it off, and then we'll start to just go deep and talk about the application in the business.
Sure. So let's talk about a few reasons. What is mail? So mail is a postcard or a letter. I'm going to just grab I have stacks and stacks of return mail there. It's basically a postcard. This is one I sent out like 5 months ago. It says, "Hi, my name is Michael Pinter. I want to buy your house at this address. I'll pay you cash, blah, 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 blah." And that's it. And I think a lot of people get hung up on what the mail piece says, or whether letters or postcards. And I'm a postcard guy. I know you're a postcard guy because it's cheaper, and it is the tried and now it's one of the reasons why it's a tried and true method is because it was around before cold calling was easy, and before you can before the technology existed to text massive amounts of people, and before PPC existed, people were sending out mail. But the truth is that the vast majority of the people that we buy houses from are older, and mail still has a lot more weight with them. So you'll get young kids coming into the business at 22 years old, and they'll go like, "I don't even read my mail, right? All my bills come electronically. Why would anybody do that via mail?" And we do that a lot, is we project how we feel in a marketing situation when it might not necessarily be how the way our target prospects feel. So mail works. I'm a big believer in mail. I mail out thousands and thousands of postcards every week, and I mail to people multiple times, but I guess we'll talk about that soon. And if you have a list of any people that are likely to sell for whatever reason, and we can talk more about lists, mailing them is a great way to do it. But another thing that it does, because it's expensive, right? If you have a list of 10,000, every time you're going to mail it, if you're sending out postcards, it's going to be $4,000. It eliminates a lot of the newbies and fly-by-night guys who won't be around in 6 months, because they're not going to invest in it, or maybe they'll mail once and say, "Oh, it doesn't work." So I'm a huge believer in mail, and I would say not because there are guys who run their whole business, spending a lot of money on pay-per-click, guys who run really successful businesses, but to me it's rare. Maybe 9 out of 10 guys who are successful in this business who don't use direct mail as a major lead generation channel.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And the thing you mentioned, a great point that I want to emphasize, is like a lot of people, as you would say, they cock around with mail, and what they'll do is they'll send out 5,000 postcards once, and then they'll stop.
Not even. I know guys that they'll send out like 500 postcards.
And they might as well give me the money, and I'll just go, buy a Rolls Royce deposit.
So I say that all the time. I say, if you're going to mail once, you should really just not mail.
Save your money.
Right.
Save your money.
And also they'll mail to a small list, right? They'll get a list of something very specific, like vacant absentee owned properties in one zip code, right? And there'll be 327 of them, and they'll mail it. And lo and behold, they won't get a deal from it. And they'll be like, "This mail doesn't work."
This doesn't work. Yeah, that's a big problem. It's funny. I was at I'm a pretty competitive person. You obviously are as well. And I'm at a seller's house last week, and She got like 3 marketing pieces from me. And then she got 2 other ones from 2 of my buddies, right? They're my competitors, but we're buddies.
Like Devin?
And what?
Devin?
He was one of them. And then the other one was another friend of mine.
Okay.
And I'm just like, she'll probably sell me the house ultimately, in my opinion. I think I can close that deal. But I just know for a fact that I am in direct mail for the long haul. And because of the consistency and the fact that I'm going to mail that person over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I have a lot of experience doing it and I've studied it, it's almost like it's insurance, to where a lot of people, like, they might not get a deal from their first mail drop and they freak out. But I'm mailing someone 5 to 6 times. I know over the course of that campaign, it's going to become profitable. And that is where people get hung up. So the first point we're going to make, and you just said the point about 2 minutes ago, is like, if you're not going to mail at least 5 to 6 times, don't even waste your time. And here's why. So people hear that statement, they're like, what the hell? Here's why.
If I'm mailing to people who want to sell, they should
want to sell
right away.
Drop your pants and sell me, like, come on. But the bottom line is this. I've noticed that you say this all the time, and it's true. There is a luck factor to this direct mail thing. And that's where people don't understand. It is a timing situation. It's timing, a little bit of luck. But if you're sending out volume and units of mail, you're increasing the chances of the timing and the luck working out in your favor. You obviously can't control that. But I'll tell you where most of my direct mail deals come from. They go, Greg, I got your 5th postcard. My tenant has stopped paying me, and I don't want to mess with this. And if I just mailed them 3 times, they might not even have called me, and that would turn into a $40,000 deal. So you have to know with direct mail, there's going to be a luck component to it. But if you don't have enough units in the mail going out to the mailboxes, you're putting yourself in a statistical low probability of a deal, because it's just the thing with mail is it's just math at the end of the day. That's why I really like it. It's very logical, very math driven. There's not a lot of fanciness to it. It's very simple. And like, what are some of your what are your thoughts on what I just kind of said? Because obviously,
so 3 things. So I believe direct mail needs to be sent, like you said, 5 or 6 times for 2 reasons. The luck factor, for sure, right? You have that mail piece has to hit the day that his tenant said he's not paying, the day that his roofer told him what he thought was going to be a $500 repair is an $18,000 ripoff and replace. The day where he just decides not to do it. That's one big factor, is luck. The second factor is when you mail someone multiple times, like we're talking about, it really sends them a message that A, I really want your house, and B, I'm not like that jerk that mailed you once a year ago and never mailed you again. So the people see it, and let's be honest, most of them just toss your card in the garbage. But that day where either some event happened where he might want to sell, or he changes his mind, or decides he's got to move down south, whatever it is, the fact that he got it again, he's like, this guy, there's something there, right? I'm not just some putz who mailed you once and never mailed again. I mailed you a bunch of times. It's not cheap, right? You get people screaming, calling. Well, let's talk about the bad part of mail. We'll talk about later. So that's the luck factor, and the luck factor, and the consistency, which conveys a message that you're serious. But also, we didn't talk about sample size. So we said that there are a lot of people that dabble in mail. So they'll throw out 300 postcards and say mail sucks. But you need a pretty big sample size, right? You need to send out thousands of pieces every month, or as frequently, and we should talk about frequency soon. You need to send them out to know what's going on, because you're not even getting a 1% response rate today. That's pretty much given. You're getting less than that. And some of those responses are going to be taken off your list. So you have to work with bigger sample sizes to get kind of results that anybody's looking for.
100%. In my opinion, in our area, or in California, or in any expensive area of the country, you need to be, in my opinion, if you're not sending at least 10,000 units out, you don't even have a chance. Like, I'm not saying you don't have a chance, but it's going to take you so long to convert that campaign. Like, in my opinion, if you're not committed to sending at least 10,000 out over the course of a campaign, which we'll get into structuring, you're putting yourself in a situation where, like, let's say you want to get to the goal in 6 months. If you're not willing to send at least 10,000 units out, it's probably going to take you 12 months, right? If you're sending 3,000,
might not happen at all. I mean, you don't even know, if you don't have a big enough sample size, you don't even know if your list stinks.
Yes.
Theoretically, if your mail piece stinks, you could be just literally wasting your money, right? They may have sent you the wrong list. They may have sent you a list of people that are super happy, and you won't know if you send that 300 of them, right? I could send that a list of 300 of the hottest leads in the world, and nobody's going to call me, right? But if I send out a list of 10,000, to people that are likely to sell for whatever reason, either something to do with them or something to do with the property, then I'll get a better idea of what's going on.
100%. So let's get into the list component now, because that's something that's specific to New York State where, you know, and I'll talk about why lists are different in New York, and then we'll expand on what lists to mail and what lists we mail. So in New York specifically, the thing I've noticed, especially with getting like niche data, is that there's counties, and then there's towns, and then there's villages. There's some cities.
Sometimes there's cities, there's villages, yeah.
Yeah, there's all this hamlets, whatever the hell you call it, Hamlet, whatever. So at the end of the day, the data is usually controlled by the smallest organ. So if it's the hamlet of whatever, if it's the village of whatever. So when you call up a village and you say, hey, I want to get all the code violations in your village, they're going to tell, most likely in New York, they're going to say, we don't have that, or we're not going to give that to you.
Correct.
Right. So you're going to get that a lot. So because of that, you can still get niche lists. You got to go to the right sources. Like, for example, if you're in Orange County, New York, and you want to get the tax delinquent list, you got to go to the commissioner of finance and buy that list. And it's a pain in the butt to like convert into like a real spreadsheet, but that's how you get it. But if you want to go into Suffolk County, it's very hard to get the tax delinquent list in Suffolk County.
In Nassau, it's almost impossible. They release it once a year, and it's never, ever going to be available other than that one time a year. And that list is not delinquent taxes. There's only taxes that are becoming liens. And half of those people on the list are going to pay it off before it even goes to auction. So you've got this massive list of crap, which is not really accurate. And there's a lot of niche lists that are just not available in our area.
They're just not available. Yeah, the buildings department won't give you them or whatever. And that's okay. And then that's why people don't like doing business in New York, because they think it's too hard for some reason, which is not true, which we've talked about in a different episode. So at the end of the day, here are the lists that I like to mail. I do like the tax delinquent list. Depends on the area I'm mailing. You know, if I'm going to mail the tax delinquent list in Westchester County or Suffolk or Rockland, it's going to be hard to get that. But I know in Orange County and Dutchess County, I can get that list. So I like to mail, because I mail in volume and I mail in bulk. I like absentee owners. I like people who have owned their property for a specific length of time, usually at least 15 years, because that tells me that, okay, there's probably equity and there's probably some deferred maintenance, depending on where like if it's in a certain zip code, I'll know that like, okay, there's shittier houses over here due to the economic scenario. So I really like absentee owners, Michael. And another list I like is the unknown equity list, which is a glorified absentee owner list where the county just doesn't know if there's equity because it's been owned for so long. Those are lists I like to mail. I mean, what about you down in Long Island?
So like, it's even harder for me to get niche data here, but the general lists I'll run are the ones you said. So older people who've been in the house for a long time.
Yes.
People under some kind of economic distress. So listability has that ESI index. So people
mail that.
And
you mail absentee owners?
Absentee owners. Sometimes I'll stack them on those lists and look for people that are absentee. It depends how big we get. But yeah, that's a list I'll mail to. But I also pay for predictive data because I'm so starved for data in my area. I'll pay a provider like Audantic a lot of money to come up with a predictive data set, which they will never tell me what that prediction is, but they'll tell me what the prediction is. They'll just never tell me how they get it. So what they say they do is they analyze properties that they feel sold to an investor in the past, right? Because they believe it's sold at a discount to something to an LLC. And then they'll try to analyze data points and predict which people will sell to the future. I've had good luck with the Audantic list, but it doesn't work everywhere. I know people had tried it in like Texas and it didn't work. Yeah. But I'm good with the Audantic list. It's not cheap. I mean, it costs over $40,000 a year, so most people are not going to do it.
No.
But that's where I get a lot of my data from.
What do you like with the Audantic list, for example? Do they cap like how many people will they give that out to in Nassau or Suffolk County? Because there's 3 million people in Long Island.
It used to be exclusive with one. Then immediately after I signed up, a competitor of mine signed up. So then they said it was 2, but I don't know. They might be back to 1. I'm hoping they don't sell it to anybody else, to be honest with you. But I can't control that.
Yeah, no, and at the end of the day, like we said earlier, like there is a luck and a timing factor to it. So I'll give you an example. There are, me and my buddies, and if me and Michael mailed the same list, let's say we both mailed some big lists in Nassau County, I might get some deals on that list that Michael mailed to that might never even called Michael. And then the reverse is also true.
Absolutely. We can both mail the same list, call the same list. There are people you will talk to that I will never, ever get in contact with, and the people I will talk to, you'll never get in contact with ever. That's just a fact.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. So at the end of the day, like, don't think because a lot of people are doing direct mail that it doesn't work, especially in New York, because we did a podcast with Jeremiah Dalton last week, and we were talking just about how it is so much different in New York, which pretty much allows for a more blue ocean. So in Nassau and Suffolk County, there's 3 million people, and there's 5 or 6 guys that do it systematically.
I think there's 5 guys who go direct to seller. Think about that. 3 million people, 5 people going direct to seller. Now, I'm not saying there aren't fly by night guys who will send out a postcard or who'll make a cold call or will pay for a PPC, but they're not really doing it significantly in any consistent way. I don't mind those guys. Let them spend their money, and they're gonna unless you're committed to doing this for 12 to 18 months, you're not gonna see any real results. So I'm not worried about these guys. They come and they go.
Yeah, 100%. So at the end of the day, like, you got to understand with direct mail, like, to make this actionable so far, you got to be mailing for the long term. And in my opinion, if you're not committed to mailing for at least 6 to 9 months at very minimum, if not at least a year, save your money, because at the end of the day, the response rates are not going to be in your favor if you're not committed to the long haul. So let's talk about when, let's say someone listens to this, they're inspired, they want to send the mail out, they have money to do it. What should they expect in terms of not a response rate, because we covered that, but like the types of calls you're going to get when you mail, because that's something that also throws people off their horse.
Right. So you have to be ready for negative calls, right? There's going to be a lot of calls, and it doesn't make sense to you and me, right? Like if we got something in the mail that said, hey, you want to buy your house, and I was interested in selling, I toss it, and I never in a million years think about calling the guy and telling him to make me off the list. I don't care less. Right? He's spending the money on postage. If I don't want to sell, I'll just throw his postcards out every month. But you will get angry people screaming at you. And what I used to do is I used to send, I don't know if I have any of those postcards a long time ago where they were Street View postcards. So it used to have the Google Street View on it, because I thought that was a better way. Like it was a thing, oh, this is my house. But I got so many calls, and my leads manager was talking to so many people who were asking about the picture. How'd you get the picture? That's the wrong picture. That's my neighbor's house. You had to be standing on my neighbor's roof to get that picture. Some kind of crazy things that we would get. And I just was like, I don't need to waste my leads manager's time on this. So I send just regular postcards now. Like you saw, they're called doodle postcards. So you're going to have to be ready for people to call you and say, first take me off the list, and I'm fine. I'm 100% fine with somebody. You get reasonable people that say, hey, I'm not selling. Can you take me off your list? And I'm like, great, just give me your address. I'll never mail you again. But then you get people who start screaming. Why did you send it to me? Who told you I wanted to sell? Did you see a sign in front of my house? Who do you think you are? And I'm like, sometimes I'm at a loss, right? And I try not to take those calls. And what I do now is when they call in on a mail number, I say, if you're interested in being removed, press 1. Sends them to a voicemail where I apologize, and I say, just leave me your address, I'll take you off. If you're interested in selling your house, press 2. And then I only want my lead intake team, because I just hired a bunch of people doing lead intake. I only want that team talking to people who want to sell a house. Now, of course, some people will still get pissed off and hit 2 and start screaming, but very rare. So I want to minimize that. I got that from Jason Lewis, and I think it's really good because it's a downer. Like I've talked to people, and I screwed up my mood for an hour. I remember recently I texted someone different podcast, but I texted someone. She called me to basically lecture me on how texting is not a way I should be marketing. Now, what I should have said is, I apologize. Just let me get your number and I'll take you off. But I didn't. I was like, so I think I went like, oh, and she goes, oh, am I bothering you? And I said, miss, if you don't want me to text you, I'll never text you again. I said, but I just don't want to listen to a lecture about how I do business. And she got offended. And I shouldn't have said that, right? I was just so pissed off because it's just a downer. So
yeah, me too. It happens to me all the time, dude. It happens to the best of us.
Right. I should have just said, you're right, I'm sorry. And she was calling me from like a design company, and I was about to say, I'm not going to tell you how to design things. Don't tell me how to market for deals. But I didn't say that. But what I said was wrong, and I should have had more class, right? I lost my cool for a second. But in mail, you have to be prepared for some angry people. You're going to get people who scream at you to take them off the list and then not tell you the address. And I say
that happens a lot.
I say, how do you want me to take a list if I don't have your address? She goes, well, you mailed me. You know my address. I said, I mail 5,000 cards a week. She's like, well, you still know what it is.
Dude, I get that a lot, man. We get these pissed off people in like Rockland and Westchester where the houses are expensive, and they're just like, I think you become numb to it as you do it more. It's just
Sure.
part of business.
You and I are much better at it. It's not going to screw it up, but sometimes somebody will just put you in a bad mood, which is why if there's any way you can via technology, minimize that, I advise you to. So if you have CallRail or any kind of call flow system, I do it through my CRM, but I would advise you to just say, hey, if you could do a, what's it called?
IVR.
An IVR where they first call in, hey, we'll get to you in a minute, but if you want to be removed, press blah. And if you want to sell a house, press blah. It definitely minimizes that time. But if you're just starting out and you don't have a call system or anything like that, you have to absolutely expect some negative calls. It's just part of the business.
100%. I've had people call me, just to put icing on the cake here. I had people call me. Well, I've had attorneys call me representing their clients, threatening. I've had the police call me. I've had people saying, if you send me another mail, I'm going to, do whatever bad thing to you. Like you got to expect nut jobs to call you. And at the end of the day, I remember one time, this is right when I started learning how to do sales and negotiating. I remember I talked this guy off the ledge. He was so angry at me. And I said, listen, it sounds like you're really upset this is Chris Voss stuff. I said, listen, it sounds like you're just super upset with emailing you. And it sounds like I'm the last guy you want to talk to. And
That's great.
I really apologize. And he's like, well, I don't, and all of a sudden he opened up and he didn't end up being a deal, but at least he wasn't like trying to come to my house with a pickaxe or something like that.
Gary Boomershine tells a famous story of the house that I think he lived in where
he sold it for like $1 million profit.
The woman was going off on him and he's really good. And he said to her, I understand. I'm not going to mail you again, but I'm just curious. If I wanted to get in touch with you to buy your house, what's a better way for me to do that? Should I have stood out in front of your car and waited for you to come in the morning? Should I have put a billboard across the street from you? He goes, what would you have suggested? And then she also opened up. But the Chris Voss stuff is the great, with the mirroring and the labeling is awesome. I don't use it enough, and I really should, because it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
The labeling is brilliant, right? When someone's upset at you, and you say it sounds like you're really upset, or someone is, whatever, just labeling how they feel is an incredibly effective tool to get somebody to open up to you.
Totally. It sounds like you've really been able to embrace the Chris Voss stuff and use it to benefit your business.
I wish I used it more.
I just used it on you.
I know you did. And I'm saying it works. So I feel so open and honest with you right now.
No, it's so I'm listening to that book again now for like the millionth time. But so let's talk about the positives of direct mail. Like when you get a good call. So I'll kind of cover that. So at the end of the day, with my system, when someone calls in, everything goes to voicemail. No one answers live. And I found that to be a little bit better because if you have a lead manager or if you're doing it yourself, I don't like unless it's a PPC lead or something or SEO lead. I don't want it going directly to my cell phone because at the end of the day, 90% of the calls are not urgent. They might be important, but they're not urgent. So I don't want to be like doing this podcast and, hey, this is Greg, I'm doing a podcast. Let me call you back. That like kind of just burns your energy out. So I send everything to voicemail, and this is the voicemail. It says, hey, this is Greg. Thanks for calling up. If you have a property that you want to sell, please leave your name, the full property address, including the city, state, and zip, and the best number to call you back, and someone will get back to you immediately. And I found the compliant responders are like, my name's Bob Jones.
Better deals.
I live on 123 Apple Street in Centerport, New York, 12574. The best number to reach me is 516-718-4455. And I know with that voicemail, at least they can go into the system. We can get a snapshot of what's going on. And when they get called back, there's a very low chance they're going to be pissed off that you're on the phone with them. They're going to be, hey, thanks for getting back to me. I left you that voicemail. Let me tell you a little bit about my property. And you're going to have a much better conversation when the seller just leaves a compliant voicemail. However, I will say this, I bought smoking deals from people who didn't even leave a voicemail. They hung up. They called, they hung up, they got called back, and all of a sudden they sold us the house at a crazy price. So don't think that if you have hangups and missed calls, you shouldn't call them back, because sometimes those are some of the juiciest deals. Maybe they don't have time, or they're not in the location where they can talk. And what do you do with the hangups and the missed calls? How does that work?
I call them back, but I try to answer my calls live, right? So I have a lead intake team to answer live. I believe it's a little better. Now it may not be better for you. But I think I've had too many of those people who called, hung up, or left a message, and then I can't
get in touch with
them, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer to answer everything live if I can, right? There's a cost to that, right? I have to pay people to answer the phone live. but I'm still a bigger believer in answering live if possible. But the voicemail does not work. It's just a different way to look at it, right? You're making an active decision to not pay somebody or pay multiple people to answer the phone all day. And the people who leave a message are good, but you have to, anybody who calls on a mail line gets called back for me. Like
Immediately.
I now have 3 people in lead intake. If we get a no contact made lead, so somebody who, let's say, we haven't touched yet, I tell all 3 people to try and touch them 3 times a day. So they're getting 9 calls, maybe 9 texts. And my number has gone down much lower. Like, I'm attacking that because there's definitely something to be said in the speed to lead for sure.
Oh, it's huge. It's humongous. And I found like the typical mail call, hey, they leave their information, you call them back, you have a call, and then you figure out a next step depending on what your business is, which we've done podcasts on that. But at the end of the day, if you set your expectations right when you do the mail, you're not going to be disappointed, because if you know that it's going to be hard and you're going to get a lot of bad calls, but you're going to get a lot of good calls from it, you're going to be in a better space to succeed. But versus thinking like, I'm going to send 300 vacant house mailers and I'm going to get 2 6-figure wholesale deals, you're barking up the wrong tree. Hey, maybe that happens, maybe once in a while you get lucky, but you're not playing the odds in your favor. So
even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
That's true, especially with 3 million people on Long Island. There's a lot of nuts out there. I can say that for sure. By the way, I was driving back. I was there a couple of weeks ago with Naman, our buddy, and dude, people in Long Island drive like nut jobs, dude. I was on the Southern State driving back to the Cross Island.
I'm one of them. I drive pretty crazy.
Dude, it's just like nut job central. I'm like, man, these Long Island people are freaking crazy.
Have you ever been to Salt Lake City, Utah? Because I was there about a month ago.
I've been there.
So that's the speed limit everywhere there is like 75, on everything. And people, I thought I drive crazy. These people were passing me when I was going 90. They were passing me.
Yeah, it's crazy out. Yeah, that's it. Salt Lake City is kind of a weird place. I actually went to Park City, and I didn't really like Salt Lake City. I was there for a night coming to New York, and
Park City's a lot nicer. I was in Park City in January, and I was in Salt Lake City a month ago. Yeah. Park City's a lot nicer.
The people out west are just so different. I've noticed they're different mindset. But let's start to wrap up the show here. We're gonna cover one more thing. I always like to use case studies and examples to drive home what we're teaching, so people can like see this theory that we're talking about, and I can wrap a bow around it with a deal. So I'll share a deal. Michael will share a deal specifically from mail. I'll tell you the skinny on it and how much money we made, not to brag, but to inspire. So I'll never forget this one. This was direct mail. This lady got my 6th postcard. I said 6th, not first. She said, hey, I got this property in New Windsor. I want to sell it. I have not paid my taxes. I want to get to North Carolina. The property needs some work, and basically come over and make me an offer, and I'm willing to sell at a discount. And I said, all right, cool. So went over there, talked to the lady. She was pretty open to selling. There was not a lot of resistance. We ended up getting it under contract, and we made like 75 grand. If I kept the property right now, I would have made 150 grand. So I'm kind of stupid for flip. We fixed and flipped it. But anyway, the point of that is that she got my 6th postcard. So if I mailed her 5 times, I wouldn't have made 75 G's, right? So at the end of the day, that's where the timing comes in. Hey, mail touch 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It might not have hurt bad enough at that point. But when she got number 6 for some reason, she said, hey, I want to sell to you, and I'm willing to do business right away. So that just shows the listener, you got to be committed for the long haul with direct mail, because you never know when they're going to be ready to sell, and you've got to set the odds up in your favor. And that was a super profitable deal. I remember there was this funny side note on that deal. She said the house needed a lot of work, and like it needed some work, but it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about, lady? So we ended up closing like with cash right away. Like we just took it down. It was a smoking deal. We're like 100 grand. I'm like, fuck it, we're just going to buy it. So we take this thing down, and I'm like, what the fuck was she talking about? Like, this thing is fine. Like, did a little rehab on it. And all of a sudden I get a call, and it's like, hey, Greg, you got to pump the basement out. And I'm like, I'm in California. I'm like, what are you talking about? There was a basement that she basically covered up. I had no idea this thing existed. It was behind the house. Yeah, fucked up. I never went in the basement because I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And this thing was filled with water. You could have put a boat down here, and man, fucking mold. We gutted the whole thing, and we ended up doing well on it. But like, it kind of log jammed us up for like another, couple months. So I know why she sold it to me now. I'm like, oh no shit, you sold it to me. This thing was fucked up, But anyway, so I digress. Michael, let me hear a direct mail case study from you.
I'm gonna do the most recent direct mail deal I closed. So it was about a month ago. deal in Bethpage, which is a really good area.
Oh man, golf. I gotta go. I'm gonna go golfing there soon. There's like 7 courses.
Bethpage Black is really
That's
nice.
hard.
Oh, it's long, super long. So woman calls me, says that they inherited a property. It was parents' house. House is really old, terrible condition. And they repeated to me like 100 times, we may just fix it up and do the work ourselves. But when somebody says that, I know
they're
they
full
don't
of
want to do
shit.
the work themselves, right? Exactly. So I'm like, okay, let me go see it. I go see it. Yeah, it's not in good shape, but it's a huge lot. The property's in a terrible position. It's all the way in the back. There's like a 100-foot front yard and like a 6-inch backyard, but it's still in a great area. And I'm looking at it. I go, I make the offer. I go, I have to negotiate with all 3 siblings. They all wanted me to talk to them. I had to get them all on the phone. I got it for a price that seemed good. I put it out there, and I made like 50 grand wholesaling it. And I had 17 offers on it. I mean, I went with what I thought was the best offer, but it was a simple deal. I mean, it's simply, I provided the convenience and certainty that they couldn't get. There was no way they were going to do work to it. And there were people who passed on it because of the position of the property. Like, we think about this, like I may not want a property that's all the way in the back. I may prefer a backyard over a front yard, but some people just don't care. And you just need one cash buyer that's going to pay you what you want, who's going to be okay. So the house needed a lot of work, but that's a typical deal. They were never going to do the work to it. House needed significant work, and it's a $50,000 wholesale deal, straight up, simple and easy.
Did you compete with anyone on that, or were you the only guy in town?
Only guy.
Only guy in town. Bethpage, New York, expensive real estate, right?
I would say, still more than 2/3 of the time, I'm the only guy making an offer.
That's amazing. That is freaking amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. I don't take that for granted. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Now with Beth, could someone knock that down and put a new spec, because the lot's huge, or is it not?
It could. At that price, it would be a little tight.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the hell price I got it at. Where is it? So I mean, I got it for like 380 and I sold it for like 430. At 430, maybe it's possible. I don't think the guy I sold it to was going to do that. At like 350, if I had got it for 300, put it out for 350, I would have had builders all day coming. But at 430 up there, it would be tight. But the guy, I knew that the value of the lot was almost 380. Like I looked at it as, if I can't find somebody to wholesale it, I'm not going to lose a lot of money, because I could sell to a builder for like 360, 370. Like I love doing that. Like I look at land value a lot, and I say, what's my real downside here? And if I have minimal downside and good upside, I'll go into a deal. But that's how mail works. Like this was a deal that just was, it was, the other ways were not going to work. It's 3 siblings. If I would have cold called one of them, they would have looked at me weird. One of the brother who sort of knew what was going on, got the mail. I think he was the executor of the will. He showed it to the other people. He's like, this schmuck wants to buy our house. Should we talk to him? And that's how it works.
That's amazing.
I think it was I think it was the 3rd postcard he got.
Third post, exactly. That's the big thing. It's like the 3rd postcard he got, he called you. I remember the one I got was the 6th one. It was a tax delinquent list, and she was living in. And normally I don't really buy properties from people who live in them for some reason. A lot of them are absentee owners because I mail a lot of them. But you never know until you just send the mail. So hopefully the listeners got some value today. They understand the ins and outs of direct mail. We're going to continue this marketing series. We're going to cover, our next marketing channel, obviously on the next episode.
Wait, before you want to talk about, do you want to talk about just the service providers that we,
oh yes, we
forgot
to even mention that. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Let's get
because
into that.
I want people to know, like, I don't sit there licking stamps and,
no.
and writing out postcards, right? We both use large mail.
You there? You froze. Oh, Mike, you froze. Mike froze. We're going to wait for him to join. Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, just give me 1 second. Mike. We're good. We're good. We're good. So the service provider, sorry about that.
We're back. Yeah. So I'm saying, Greg and I don't sit there licking stamps and writing out postcards, right? We use service providers. There are probably a dozen major mail houses. I use Yellow Letter HQ. Who do you use?
So I use a few. Yeah, it's interesting. I go all across the space. So Yellow Letter HQ is a phenomenal company. They're actually out of San Diego. They're probably 25 minutes from where I am right now. I'm up in Carlsbad. So Yellow Letter HQ is great. They have great pricing, and we both know the owner Todd very well. He's in our mastermind. I used Yellow Letter HQ. I also use a few other companies as well. So I use a company called Open Letter Marketing. They're out of Massachusetts. They got great products as well. Very similar in terms of the pricing. Good friends with the owner as well. So it's all about who you know around here. And then another company I use as well for postcards is called Postcard Mania. And they're a little bit cheaper than both of the other guys. And I buy like a lot of bulk product from them. So I'll buy like 50,000 units at a time. And, so I'll kind of test around, but I just placed an order with, actually I placed 2 orders with Yellow Letter HQ last week. A postcard. I mean, I'm like a mail whore, I just mail all over the place. But at the end of the day, I would advise someone to not try to do it on their own, unless they're flat broke. I used to handwrite letters when I was like 20 years old. But once I started getting some money in the bank, I'm like, all right, fuck this.
I don't think it's cheaper. I mean, they get such discounts on the postage and everything. Like we both pay 30 something cents for a postcard. Like the postage with the postcard is already 20 or 30.
It's already 20 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much are we spending really for the card? And also the mail piece is something that they've used before, and that right. You can use, it really doesn't matter which mail piece you use. I know people spend a lot of time obsessing over what goes on the mail piece, but it almost doesn't matter what you write. It's just sending the message that you're interested in buying the house. So
your mail piece could literally say, hey, Peckerhead, I just got out of jail. I got a huge criminal record. My family hates me. I haven't fed my dog in 2 days.
But I got some cash.
Yeah. So obviously I'm kidding about that statement, but I'm trying to just drive a point home. Like at the end of the day, if someone wants to sell, they're going to call you. And I used, one more quick story. This is so funny. I know we're getting towards the end of the hour.
I know what you're going to say.
This is so stupid here. So I really like marketing and copywriting and, all that type of stuff. So I was going through some Dan Kennedy copy, or I read some Dan Kennedy book on sales copy, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to test this shit out. So I came up with a postcard on my own, and the front of the postcard said, if you want top dollar for your property, don't call this postcard, with a fucking massive don't. And then the back was like, it was yellow. It looked like throw up, this thing. It looked like this notebook here. It was this color. And the back of the postcard, I had like a little sales letter I wrote, and it was like basically explain to them how I can add value to them. And also there was a whole paragraph. I'm like, if you want top dollar, do not call me. If you think you're going to call me and get a premium offer, don't call me. Basically I got like 3 phone calls, and one of them was a lead, and I pissed away $1,000. So the point of that is, here's the deal with direct mail. This is another thing that I forgot to mention. It's very important. You want to shoot for the response, right? Like I wouldn't recommend sending a dumbass postcard like I sent, because you're literally going to get fucking no one calling you. So you just want to make the offer a general offer. Hey, I'm looking to buy some homes. Call if you want to consider selling your property. So there's less resistance there. That's like the science of that. There's less resistance for like, oh, I want to hear an offer. Let me call in. That's going to be your response rate. Don't tell them about everything you're going to do before you get them in the door, because then they're not going to call you, because they're like, unless you get some random nut job living in a shack that, so you're really, you got to just make sure you're putting a general message out there, and then they're going to call.
And whatever mail house you use, you could just ask them for a stock postcard that they use.
Oh, yeah.
I just pick something that they use that I know that works, because they wouldn't keep offering it if it doesn't work. And
exactly.
And it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter what it says. And that's something that a lot of people can't even understand.
I know
but it's true.
It's just at the end of the day, it's a timing bit. It's the timing situation. Hey, I got to this guy wants to buy my house. I have a house that I want to sell, or at least hear an offer on. Call in, go through the process, and then you go from there. But at the end of the day, don't overcomplicate it. And at the end of the day, here, one more metric I want people to track, and then we'll wrap the show up with a nice bow. You want to track the amount of money you spent, the amount of calls you got, the amount of leads you got from those calls, because not every call is going to be a lead. And then out of those leads, how many deals did you get, and how much money did you make, right? Because I track offers completely separately, because there's a shitload of channels I do. But at the end of the day, money spent, units mailed out, calls, leads, deals, money. If you track those metrics and you measure them, you're going to be able to obviously, look at the performance of that campaign from a pretty simple view.
I agree. Those are the things you have to track. Those are the things that I track.
Absolutely. Well, that's another episode. We're wrapping it up here. Greg Helbeck with Michael Pinter. We're looking forward to the next marketing mini series we're going to be putting out to the show. And Michael, hope you have a great day out in Long Island.
You too, in sunny Southern California. I wish I was there.
Take care. Bye-bye.